Alright, so I have 7
know,
o'clock.
it's like you can't.
So I'll call the meeting to order, February 13th, 2020. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Gonzalez. That's okay. Jones. Here. Macy Jo. Here. Lonzo. No. Pelletier here. Puzo. Here. Swanson.
Here.
Thank you. Okay. So if everyone's looking at your agenda, we're actually going to move the discussion of the YS renovation up into the agenda. We have, you told me their names and I already forgot.
Tiffany Dash and Damport from Product Architecture Plus Design are here, and if you guys want to go around and introduce yourselves so that they know. They met Carlotta, I think, and they've been chatting, but.
I'm Emily Jack. I'm the board president. Thanks for having me. I'm Joanne, secretary.
Lonnie. I did my toast. You guys what?
We actually, our other board member is stuck in San Francisco today, so we've done quite the board. So Tiffany and Dan, I invited them here so you guys could meet them as well. A number of the staff and I have met them. And they're also going to do a brief presentation, so I will let you guys kind of take it away. So I don't know if you just want to tell them when you want, or whatever you guys want to do, I will leave.
Hello, I'm Dan. So Tiffany and I thought it would be, with Pam, obviously thought it would be a nice idea to kind of show some of our projects that we've done before. We have included some mostly youth services spaces, and then we also have a couple of teen spaces. We actually have a lot of fun in our youth. I think it's a really good opportunity because you can kind of shift the environment from the rest of the library. Lots of color, lots of textures, lots of places for kids to learn. We also, a couple of projects, and we'll point them out, are on lower levels. So it's kind of really, Thomas Ford, which I think Pam actually visited today, is a lower level youth services area. Also has a lot of similarities in terms of trying to use space and make sure that space is being used all day. The presentation is really loose, so if you have any questions at all while we're showing the images, please don't hesitate to ask. Yeah, so we'll start from there.
Okay, here we
This is
go.
your library.
So this is part of the Cook Memorial Library System. And this is their Aspen Drive. They call it a branch, but it's really the size of a regular library. It's in Vernon Hills. And we just did an addition to make a youth pavilion there. So we just wanted to show you this. This is one of our newer ones. And so in this floor plan, it's focusing on this part, which is the youth.
It's about 7,500 square feet, which is obviously a lot bigger. But throughout our presentation, I'm interrupting, I'm sorry. We're going to just point out kind of places that we feel are applicable or sort of, moments within each of the projects. I love this.
So they don't have a dedicated story room there. They didn't want to do that. They wanted their spaces to be really flexible. So they have a meeting room, and then we created this room as part of the project. It's kind of a maker space, and they'll do some story times in here, and it has some similarities to what we're talking about for your project, doing a hard surface, making it multi-purpose. So we just wanted to show this one. This has a lot of storage, and then a counter if they want to put vinyl cutters and those sort of things in the room, flip-top tables, stackable chairs, again, washable floor, LED lights, and just they can clear out the space and reconfigure and do whatever they want.
And this is some of that same influx of students at the 3 to 6 o'clock hours. When they come in and kind of take over, and then they leave after that. So we had to create spaces that can take people in throughout the day and useful, and then at 3 o'clock kind of flip its function, and then flip back to kind of the normal sort of everyday use.
This is just a look. So the rest of the space is wide open, just like yours is going to be. We like to kind of make space by using the shelving in creative ways. So what you're seeing here is kind of an entry into the space, and all of this is, they really wanted to clear out their whole space and be able to do story times and programming out in the open. So everything from here all the way to the windows, these are round tables that flip and nest, and these chairs stack, so they can open this up to programming. And this is kind of that area. They just have they have 130 to 150 middle schoolers coming.
Yes.
So that's why we really had to plan for that influx for while they're there, but also make it a place that other people can use during the day. So that's kind of how we dealt with that situation. We like to use a lot of color, and we like to make sure people understand its use. So we did, it's a youth area, so we did that with the light fixtures. And then we kind of use this cloud carpet with pieces of color and then a hard surface right here for that programming space.
And one of the things too, and I promise I'm going to stop interrupting. We use light fixtures. All the projects, I'd like you to pay attention to the light fixtures especially, because I think the ceiling here has a lot of potential. Right now it's just kind of like, oh, there's all these things kind of laying all over it with pipes and stuff, but I think there's a real opportunity here to kind of flip the intuition and wayfinding to the ceiling, so little people can look up and see kind of where they're going. You'll notice, especially in our projects, that people that are 3 feet tall can still find their way and have markers that they remember as they look across the space. So it's really important to intuitively find your way through instead of having 50 signs that keep telling you each time to turn left, right, left, right.
So it's just another view of that space, kind of looking in the direction.
Yeah, no, you're good, you're good.
And then this is where the picture books are, and this is meant for the youngest kids. So we've talked about that with Pam and Courtney, that we need to make space for different age groups. And then, so that's what's happening here. You're just seeing the youngest kids, their play area, and then the older kids are over there.
And then all furniture here is on casters and completely rearrangeable. So lots of kids come in, they wheel that way, but not enough, they pull them forward. So again, this whole space was planned for versatility, because there's this huge, again, that huge influx that really changes how libraries is used throughout the day.
And just another view of their activity area.
I love that heart-shaped light, it's really good. Yeah.
And then they have a separate high school zone. So the middle schoolers take the areas that you saw before, and then this is an open zone in the library for the teens.
And that's another full furniture solution. So in a couple of years, if teens are doing it differently or using the library differently, you can just rearrange the furniture or get new stuff. It's not construction, which is a nice way to get that solution.
All right, now we are on to Thomas Ford, which has a lot of similarities to your library. It's in
Yes.
Western Springs.
So as you come in the library at Thomas Ford, it's really interesting. You go up to come down. So you go up the stairs to come down the stairs, or you go up a few stairs to come down the stairs. And then you come down 2 more stairs, and then you ramp down 1 more time. And the old building had a really short section, so the basement was really low, and they wanted to keep opening it up. So it's really very similar. You kind of circuitously find your way through there. And then you finally end up at the end of the, kind of the end of the destination, which is the youth. And they also have that same kind of idea of a stair that kind of links it back up to the adult services area.
This one, the carpet was already there, so we did not change the carpet, and the lights, we didn't do much with the lighting either. So that's how it's different than yours. We're going to do more with yours.
No,
but,
really,
you want to keep those things?
No, we don't.
And then, and this piece here is about the only thing that remained because it's really special to them, the water tower. So again, right here, you're seeing the youngest kids area, and then it gets older as you go back there. And then right here is a story room that you'll see in a second. This is that older kids area.
And this is just variation of type, so seating types, right? Like lots of different ways to interact.
Kind of just another view. Okay, so what you're starting to see here, their story room is back here, and you're going to see this again at Hinsdale. Because their space is limited, they wanted to be able to open up the story room when they weren't using it and just have a complete open area to the youngest kids area. So I don't know. Okay, here it is opened up. So they can kind of move the activities into there when it's not in use for story times.
And this was kind of a funny setup, but you understand, they gain about 600 square feet should there be a program that's big, and it can take over the entire space.
closed.
So that's always fun.
Again, just lots of counter space and storage
Lots of
in
color.
there. Yeah, lots of color. We did get to do the lighting in there. Okay. And then we did a teen area there. It's connected to kind of their fireplace room. So,
It was a weird setup, but it's nice that they had the separate space.
yeah. So this is for, I don't know, probably sixth grade and up. This is their seating area. So the aesthetic needed to tie together with the other one, but it has more color than the other room. There are doors that kind of open up to the other room. And so their whole collection is in here. Okay. All right, and Hinsdale is also, their youth is in the lower level, so it's also similar to here, pretty similar size.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
It's gotta be close.
Yeah,
Really close. Yours is getting a little more standard,
Yeah.
but it's not that different.
we should overlay the plan, but it looks about the same, doesn't it, with the shop?
Yeah, it may be like
Yeah.
they're
The
close.
positive thing is that it seemed
It
much more open
feels
than
more
our
open
space.
than
Yeah.
even Ford.
Yeah,
It
definitely,
does.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so again, age groups, so we've got the older kids over here and the youngest kids here. Okay, this is just a custom solution that we did. They really wanted to make cozy nooks for the kids in the windows. And we did these foam pieces and they can actually move them around. All these little triangles and stuff and rearrange how they want. So again, the computers, we end up using these, quite a lot of people like these kind of wobble chairs. And then the AV is right at the beginning of the space and the new books.
And one thing too I like about this space too is there's a lot of display that seems intuitive, so as you're walking past you see things, but I also like the Hinsdale Library has a beautiful collection of art upstairs, really, really beautiful stuff. And I think they teach that to the youth also, so they introduce them to art downstairs, and as they start to come up, they start to recognize some of the nicer pieces, not nicer, but different pieces on the wall. And I think it's a really beautiful way to use wall surfaces as, you know, places to be proud, places to show off your stuff, places to show things that you don't necessarily see. And I think they do a really beautiful job of that. And I think the color
Yeah,
also does the same.
where all the like pictures are and stuff on his court, they told us.
Yeah.
So we really, both really like that. Courtney and
Yeah.
I saw Thomas Ford and Hinsdale and parts of Elmhurst this morning. And so we both really like that idea of kind of incorporating something like
Yeah.
that.
And I think when
It's very
it's,
visible.
yeah, and when it's large enough like that too, I think the kids look for it. So they'll recognize it as a place they've seen art before, or they've seen things, or maybe their stuff has been pinned up on the wall
Right.
there, so they always come back and look. And I think those kind of intuitive learning areas, I think, are really good. It's not like banging them over the head, right? It's a little bit subtle, and I think that's nice.
Here's another view.
Yeah, I love that view.
Okay, and then this is the younger children, and it extends from here over. This was there, and they always struggle what to do with it. We come up with all kinds of fun ideas. One of them was going to be a Lego house, but they currently are just leaving it as is. It's a little reading house. And then, yeah, so you can see some of the activities starting. That went back to the older kids here. They also wanted the movable tables, everything movable. And the kids more move it. They don't move it for events or anything. The kids just move it. Okay, now we're to the youngest kids with the picture books.
And that little program now is open, so the wall is open, slit all the way. So they, again, they do the same thing where they gain the space when they don't need it. And then they need a quieter area, they're able to close the doors.
This we've done these in quite a few projects. It's like a transaction counter, and they can pretend it's a grocery store. They can pretend, this one was meant to return library books in, so they can pretend they're librarians. So just anything they want, they just kind of put bins of fun stuff in there.
And then panel activities.
Yeah, and then, yeah, the little ballet bar for little ones to pull themselves up. And then another little activity there. Okay.
So, yeah, Elmhurst is about 10,000 square feet, so it's quite a bit bigger than what you guys have. But what we try to do here is actually, they took the collection and flipped it entirely. So it used to be the youngest kids were up front as you walked in the door, and then the oldest kids were in the back, and the youngest kids would run out, and then the oldest kids would never come in because they didn't want to walk past the littlest kids to get to the area in order to happen. I think we have some of those similar kind of adjacencies that we have to pay attention to if the teams do move downstairs or where they end up being. We got to make sure that you can find identity within your age group without having to kind of weasel your way through other identities. So we actually created, you'll see some images, and we created, they also have a bunch of Eric Carle art. So we actually created an Eric Carle snake that weaves all the way down to the back. So it's huge on the ground, so if you look from the sky, you can see it. But as you're kind of going through in the space, you kind of realize that it's a way to kind of wayfind around. But it doesn't matter if they ever move anything. It's not like tying them into a plan. It's just more like a way to get people to kind of keep their eye going in the right direction. So this is what you see as you come in to the desk. And then here you can start to see the snake kind of weaseling its way back to the gate which we have for the early learning area at the back. And then to the right, there's a tweet space. So this is just coming in, seeing new books and fiction display. The kids' program room is around the corner. We'll see that too. We did a similar thing with the doors there. And then another thing to look at in this space too is there's lots of different seating types in here. Also, seats for adults, seats for kids, seats for the little guys, the right heights. So it's really important to make sure that everybody can kind of find a spot to be either by themselves, collaborative, 2, 3, 4, 5, different types of groups. Study rooms, we actually have a computer area back here too. It's just a nice way to look at, there's sound attenuation, there's nice light, there's tables and chairs, that makes sense. And again, it's really, I hope it is, but it seems like it's really intuitive. You understand, these are the clunks of study rooms, down here's the little guys, over here's the collection. You know, it kind of makes sense as you walk in. And again, I think out here, because the ceiling is so kind of weird right now, you don't really know where you're at all the time. Just it looks like shelves in the ceiling. So we're going to work really hard to make sure that you can look across the space and understand where you're at. And also take advantage of the closet. I think that's really important. And then again, so there's room there for kids after school to come in, heading towards the back of the collection. We did
power and all the tabletops.
And lining the windows with soft seating too. So there's probably 40 different ways that you can kind of sit with by yourself or with your friends in this space. This is similar program rooms. So this is almost the same thing that I've shown you before. So these doors open up, and then this space can be used entirely throughout the day. Lots of color, lots of lighting, lots of sound attenuation. So we sit some circular fixtures to soften it up. And then we also have sound attenuating panels inside there too to make sure if it gets a little loud, people can, it doesn't get too loud outside.
Yeah, and at this library, this really is for storytelling more than crafts or anything else. So it's really specifically for that, which is unusual.
They have a lot of space.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they have anything, they have a lot of space.
They have a lot of space, yeah. So it looks, it's carpeted, and this circle was meant for how they do their storytelling. So it's a little bit different, but this idea of opening up space.
Those sound things work really well though, because when Courtney and I were there, they were having a pretty loud story time in there, and we really could not hear anything. So that was that was good. That's good to know because we have other areas.
And then we created an early learning area in the back with picture books, and then lots of adult seating and kid seating, and then lots of pretend play. So we have this one is like it was like a hut that you could sort of sell out of the front and then cook in the back, and then you have like a restaurant in the middle.
This one's really cute.
There's lots of little windows, so everything is scaled to the right scale. It's not a kid play for that an adult made. It's kind of made for kids, and everything gets down to the right height. So, especially in the early learning area, it's really nice to have a little bit of intimacy, so that kids don't feel overwhelmed by the big space. So you can tell, you can see, and again, you can see the snake work its way all the way to the back, and then ends in the sort of same colors that are the paintings on the wall. So again, if you didn't know it, it's not pastiche, it's sort of just a nice way to kind of make sure people are going in the right direction. And this is the tween space. And it's funny because it used to be where the kids would play when they were very little. And again, we flipped everything to the back, but it was this really kind of odd space around the corner where moms and dads and kids just kind of sat in a room and kind of interacted without much in it. It was kind of bizarre, to be honest. So we put the tweens there so they could sneak in quickly and come into the room. So this is probably just to the left off the entry. And then we gave them, so upstairs is a real teen space, and it's pretty large also. But this space really introduces kids to aesthetic, an idea about design. Lots of surfaces to express themselves. It's funny, the first 3 weeks they get the messages, everybody think you will. And then after that, they ask them to be responsible, and then they start talking to each other. And then we went in there, there's like functions on the wall. There's notes like meet me here at 8. We're going over homework. There's a gaming area at this end. Again, many different types of seating. All of it's vinyl, so that, they have spills, there's hard surface floor, it doesn't matter. You're allowed to be messy in here. But we really like that it is a space where you start to understand that design matters. Like, there's an aesthetic to things, and you can be part of that too. So I think it's a really successful space. It's one of my favorites, actually.
Just a view into, that's back to the early literacy. And
Yeah, that kind of just up a
different
little bit,
types
sorry
of-
about that.
That's like different types of seating for parents, really.
Yeah, chair and a half on that one too, which is nice in the back.
This is probably the most parent seating we have is at this library. The kids are really kind of doing their activities in the middle, and there are tons of adult seating there.
And this is just, because some of these rooms won't have ceilings, or probably not. And so it's a nice way to understand that even without a ceiling, this is a little bit more raw. This is a maker space at the basement of Elmer's. And it's just a way to understand that you can have that same kind of beauty without having to cover everything up. So some of this is really cool. Like, I think we could make something out of it. Like, you can really start to look at the different holes. And so here we kind of dropped a level. We dropped everything to this level. We figured out what the highest point is that we could keep around the entire space. And then we finished right to there almost as a rule. And then everything above it kind of goes away, and everything below it becomes kind of the function of the space. So it's fun space.
Okay, and then our last one,
Sorry.
overwhelming you a little bit, Indian Trails. So this one is bigger. We got to do a lot here with custom pieces. Everything was new. This was a gut renovation. So the Early Learning Center is just nuts.
Where's
So,
what town is it?
Wheeling.
Wheeling.
Yeah.
So it was a 15,000 square foot addition on the front. And then the rest of the building was gutted more or less down with slabs and then rebuilt.
So this is a new light fixture that's kind of like a racetrack, and it makes its way around, and it never stops, it connects. It's just an infinity line around the space. So it's fun to sort of track it as you go through the space.
This is just a tease. It's like rubbing our faces in it.
Well,
No, not at all.
No,
you can take pieces
Right,
of this
exactly.
and,
Yeah.
definitely, so.
Yeah, the transaction counter, absolutely right, and
Yeah.
the interactive display. I think it's a really good way to see everything at once and then start to pick out, because some of the stuff, actually, we're working on changing there now. There's one of the huts is, they have a sink where little kids were at, and they're like, you know what, they just play with it, like, it's not what we really thought. So there's even things that we're changing now, so it's still.
Yeah, so as you come in here, there's a light bright right here. This is that craft area that Dan was talking about. They can sit at, I don't know if you.
We may get another piece of that.
They can sit in there, and it has a little mirror, so they can put, draw on their faces if they want, whatever they're gonna do that day. And then we are gonna do a sensory section for the, autistic kids, or, so just kind of touchy-feely stuff. And then, again, parent seating kind of around the perimeter. This is you have some of this. Yeah. And then this is a touchscreen monitor, which gets heavy use, so there's kind of kids programming on there. And this is a whole custom thing we did. Right here, what you're seeing is you can put a ball in there and crank it, and it goes up and it makes its way through, and then it comes down. If you can see right here, a little pachinko machine. And this is that transaction counter where you can do different things, play store or whatever. There's a kitchen over here. And way back here is kind of like a dollhouse, or they could put cars in there and make it a garage or whatever they want. Yeah.
And then this wall here is actually laminate and cork. The idea, they don't have any walls, it's all glass on all the walls, and there was no way to display anything, so they actually asked for, and I'm not sure they knew how much it was when we were designing, we kept saying that that's a lot of colorful wall. And when I went up, they loved it, they use it a lot, so you'll go in and the entire thing, for some reason, is full all the way across. So it was just like they needed a functional space, but they didn't want it just to be this big blank forehead sitting in the middle of their space, so it worked out really well.
And they really were specific that they wanted to use tape to hang on.
Yeah, it's funny,
So
they're like,
that's
what
why-
about, they're like,
Yeah, so this is laminate, so they can use tape instead of the cork that you saw at Hinsdale.
Yeah.
So,
which was some long conversations.
yeah. So now we've kind of headed in another direction. These are computer stations. These are nice because kids can kind of get together, but they can also have a little bit more private space than kind of the benching that we're used to seeing. So that's the light bright there, and this kind of Lego playhouse. So the outside is Lego, and then the inside is that craft area we talked about earlier. And then, I mean, this is humongous, but.
So there's, actually the next slide, I just love that slide, I think it's super cool. And it actually shows lighting being used in a way to get your eye to get into the space. Computer areas, then we have, so it's like groups and then
This is middle
individuals
school.
and then gaming, right? So it's, the kids, sometimes they don't want to be by anybody, but they kind of want to be part of it, so they can go into the cones and kind of, you know, be a little by themselves for a moment. Or they can come to the computers and play Minecraft together all the time, or they can go Xbox back in the corner. And there's two games next to each other, and there's all kinds of seating on the floor there too. And then the next slide is similar, where it's a huge craft table. When we first finished the project, it was open for about 2 months. We came in and the building engineer was scrubbing the top of the table, like, no, let it go. Like, because it's concrete. And they get messy and they spill paint. And then 6 months later, it's beautiful because there's all this remnants of activity. You know, it's like people worked in there. And so it looks like a workshop. All the crafts are here. They're always open. And you can always come in and do whatever you want after school. So it's I know the room's big, but all of these stations, I think, have potential to be included in the space that you guys are talking about. So we rarely get a space this big to do this kind of functioning. So our designs are more geared towards a room this size or something that needs a multi-purpose rather than have be so singular.
Oh, we do have one more, don't we?
There's more though, but if you want to show it, it's cool.
You want to see one more?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. All right, this is more.
Oh, it says it in shows, but it's Warrenville, sorry.
All of their spaces are on one floor, so we'll show you this.
This is Warrenville?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you done it?
Long time ago, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Just for quick, the space used to not have this, and the adults and the children really met at the adult computers right in the middle. So there was no separation, so if the kids were loud at all, everybody got angry. If the adults were loud at all, everybody got angry. If the adults wanted to be quiet, everybody got angry. If the kids got everybody to be quiet, the adults got angry. It was like this tension, and there were desks everywhere down the middle, and no one could figure out where they were at. There was no hierarchy throughout the space at all. And if we start to use the rooms that are here and in back, and we're gonna really have to work hard to make sure people know how to get to places. So it's just ways to understand how to get people to move through a space, again, without having to do it that way.
So that's what Dan was talking about, when you enter that way as adult, and then through these trees as the youth. They're on the edge of a forest preserve, so they kind of wanted a tree theme to go through.
And the
So
lighting
you
here
can go-
stayed in the adult side, and the youth, we redid some of it.
Yeah.
That you'll see. But you can, hopefully you can tell which one's youth and which one's adult.
So they're just kind of entering the space.
And this one is the same way, we're early learning, and the youngest kids are way far in the back. It's not, the teen are outside of this, but the older kids get this sort of thing up to front here also. It's such a cute image.
So we're making our way to the early learning area here.
Love it.
Yes, very cute.
Oh, the headphones. Study rooms.
And this is their activity area for the early learning. It's all kind of in a room at the end, and we did this custom wall graphic that you see lining the space, and this is kind of the underground theme. And so we designed these little tunnels and animals, and there's like little things they can find. There's coins and Legos, pictures of them stuck in there. So the library knows what to tell the kids to look for, so it's kind of fun to have the kids walk around the room and try to find things in the wall graphic. But again, some of the things that you have, the Lego table, this is one of those, another custom transaction counter, light table, and then some wall activities.
Oh, the team.
And then this is their team.
Yeah, so it's a smaller room, but just in this image, there's 3 different ways in gaming. So again, collaborative, singular. It's really important that, one thing, lots of things are on display. We always have this idea that if we put too many stuff away in cabinets, you don't use it. You know, I always laugh like I have 5 hammers because I forget where I put them, and then I put them back in the same exact spot that I left the last one. So everything's out, games out, everything's out. People know kind of just visually what to do in the space. So I think that's kind of a fun way to talk about it. With a lot of guys.
Yeah, and that is it.
That is it.
That's your floor plan. So.
Questions, comments?
Lots of good ideas, and I'm just overwhelmed, there's so many different considerations now.
I think youth service areas are the funnest ones.
Yeah.
The most colorful.
It is, yeah.
So, well, it's not similar in space, another good place, it's close to look to see more of what Tiffany and Dan do is Lincolnwood. It was completely redone.
Yeah.
And so if you've not been there, I mean, they've done really great, I really love the space in there, but it doesn't translate well to here. But again, talking about, there are certain elements that, they'll probably bring in. 'Cause,
Yeah.
their work is pretty distinctive. I mean, you can usually walk into a library, oh, Tiffany and Dan did this.
There's like 140 slides, I was like, this is bad. So it's fun to go back and look at them all. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I obviously wanted you guys to meet them as well. I really enjoyed Tiffany and Dan, and I think that we can all work really well together, but just to get a feel for their aesthetic and what we think that they can bring to our space and to the library.
Absolutely. We're really interested in also opening the space up. Like a lot of the spaces, or designs that we've worked on, a lot of it is actually taking stuff out of the way. So there's lots of potential for some of the walls. I know that it's because that addition came on the other side. We can poke holes through things just so that you can get connections visually, so the single work point can see throughout the space. There's lots of wacko pipes and stuff out there that we have to figure out how to deal with. We've looked at it before, but it's an interesting problem to solve. We kind of like those parameters that don't always look that great. Again, the outdoor patio is gorgeous. It really floods the space with sunlight. It's very pretty. And then there's potential back here. There's an organization that needs to be looked at as holistically, kind of at a zoomed out level that says, can we use this because it's close enough to public space? Is this too far for public? We have to start looking, what is close and what's far, and how far can people understand that youth services still go, and you can potentially use that space for expansion of the functions that you guys already have. So it's cool. It's a cool project for sure.
So one of the things that I did tell Tiffany and Dan when they were out here talking to Courtney and I was that, when we've thought about this in the past, we've really, kept ourselves constrained by what's currently youth services. And I said this time, I'm like, what, I said, just look at everything and what can we use and how much would things cost and that sort of thing. So I think that, my hope is that potentially we can utilize some more of those spaces to provide more space for staff and or public. But,
That's right.
To think about the downstairs in a completely different way than we have in the past, so.
Yeah, so we always develop multiple options, and we always develop costs with those options too, so it's like an informed decision. If you gain this, but it costs that, or vice versa, so you guys will absolutely have an understanding of that too.
So maybe if you could cover just real briefly kind of the process that we'll go through now. I think that the board would be interested in hearing that.
Sure.
Kind of what next steps are and how we'll work together, that kind of thing.
So our next steps, we come up with, 3 or 4 options, and then we kind of high-level options, like where's the story time, where's the staff, that sort of thing. And we meet with Pam and Courtney, and we kind of go over everything until we are happy with 1 or 2 plans that they like. And then we can start to do, once we come up with that plan, then we start to do 3D renderings and a cost estimate. And we can come to you at any point along the way, or at the end with kind of all the information that we've decided, and then we can decide how to move forward. So we're kind of, we call it kind of master planning stage, kind of feasibility study stage of the process.
At the same time, we'll be looking at overall materials, bigger materials like carpet, ideas of carpet. It's big bang stuff, Carpet paint in the ceiling, it can as you've seen, it can transform a space dramatically. So the renderings and the ideas of materials will be part of that also.
Any other questions for Tiffany and Dan? Comments?
Yeah. Or anything you'd like to see as we move forward? Anything that you
Part
really
of
liked?
the change that's going to be required is the restroom. Do you have, nothing was kind of on display with restrooms, but what?
We did cool restrooms.
Yeah.
Especially for little kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we do good ones. We should
Yeah,
we should do
yeah.
a little slide over.
So actually, and I can forward these to the board or whatever. So Courtney and I, as I said this morning, we went to 3 different libraries, and she took a bunch of pictures of everything, but also of the restrooms. So I'm happy to share those with the board. And so they do a nice job with those. But and redoing the restrooms for the family restrooms will absolutely be part of this.
Yeah.
We did not do Hinsdale. I think you'd be able to.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. By the time it's
But we always see it as
yeah.
potential.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's funny if you go to hotels or you go to hotel lobbies or bars, the restrooms are amped way up. And it's now that tile costs are much more because they're all porcelain. You can really do a ton of design in there, and it doesn't make any difference towards cost. I mean, we can have more expensive tile, like a feature wall or something, but really there's a lot of mileage you can get out of just being smart in terms of the tile that you choose. So we get really excited about it. Sometimes too excited. Whoa.
But I'll forward you guys those pictures.
Yeah, we'll
so you
develop
can see.
options for those
Yeah.
two, for sure.
Yeah, but that's definitely part of it.
No, that's fun.
The murals, there were a couple of those pictures. I think the last library, there was the kind of the underground garden and the teen or tween space. It seemed like there's like a skyline kind of thing.
That's right.
So is that like a painting mural? Is that more like a
It's vinyl wall covering.
vinyl wall covering?
Yep, so if it gets tired, or you guys can just replace it, and it's not very expensive to do that. It'll last forever, but it really is something that gives you a huge bang, and then in 2 years, if you want to switch it out, or it's totally able to do that also. And it's totally
Have
cleanable.
they been up these stairs,
They have been
Yeah.
around,
the big white stairs?
yeah, both sets of stairs, yeah.
Okay.
We hear you loud and clear. And actually, both the images on those walls were developed by Jim in our office. So one of them's a painting that he did actually, which is funny. And then he did all the work on the underground one too. So it's a fun.
It's a great creative
Yeah.
outlet for us.
Yeah.
It is.
Excited to see what you come up with.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank
And then
It's a pleasure to be
you'll
here.
email me or call me about next
Yeah.
meetings and stuff like that.
Can I just yank this
Yeah,
out? Do you
pull
want
it
to sit
out.
on top or you're good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'll just squeeze by with 2 pictures. Thank you so much for coming.
Do you want me to unplug this or? Leave it in for a minute?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
mess with it. Thank you. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll,
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks. You too.
oh, thank you. Hear from you
Stay
guys.
warm.
And
Yep.
then, yeah, stay warm.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks.
See you.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, staff, a lot of us go to different libraries, and so we have seen a lot of things, but understanding that you guys may not visit as many libraries, and so
Yeah.
I thought just to get a feel for kind of their aesthetic and some of the things that they have done, and,
I like that they have such an understanding of libraries and services in general, and understanding what spaces are used for, and that it needs to be interactive, and there needs to be not just shelves of books and.
yeah, one of the things that I've always really liked about them is that because they do so much library work, they really understand what we do. So, there's not a lot of, I mean, I've been involved in other projects and I've heard, other stories about, an architect can be beautiful and the space is beautiful, but there's not a clear understanding of what the space has to do and how the building has to function. And so, I think that Tiffany and Dan really understand that, and so it's really, that's kind of half the battle in some ways. And when they come in, they're not, there's an aesthetic, obviously, and you can usually tell if they've worked on a building and stuff, but, everything has a function, or they understand that things have to be multi-purpose or multifunctional and that kind of thing. So I think that they bring a lot to the table in terms of that.
And it's nice that they realize that you have to segregate age groups too.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
huge for effective functioning.
Yeah, and as Dan was saying too, this idea that, understanding how different age groups interact with that space, maybe the teens or the 12-year-olds don't want to walk by the 2-year-olds to get to their section and stuff like
Right.
that. So I mean, it's that kind of thinking that you don't find, not everyone is thinking about those spaces in the same way. I know, for example, like Carroll Stream, they're finishing up Carroll Stream, and that's the library that I was at for a long time. And, talking about, flipping the spaces, they do that a lot. And they did it at Carroll Stream, whereas like before, it's one big square building, which gives you some different functionality, and you can change things around a little bit easier. But they used to have the youth services department that was closest to the door that went outside, and it's an automatic door. So, I mean, I can't tell you the number of times a little 2-year-old will be toddling out, and the doors open automatically, and then the kids, there's the parking lot, because everything is one level. And so, and then at the far end of the building was, the adult services department, and then there was a separate little wing that was the computer room. And so, they went into Carroll Stream, and they completely flipped that, and so now that
that kind of L shape, and that's where their early literacy is going to be. So this whole idea about thinking about how people are using the space, and especially how little kids and kids are using the space. So and we do a lot of that kind of thing, and they do a lot of, you know, as Dan said, like with they don't often get to do a project like Indian Trails where they can come in and kind of get all that space. They really do a lot of projects that are similar in size to ours, or just coming in and do one room or something like that. So they really do understand and have an appreciation for working with some of the challenges that we have as well. It's been my experience with that.
Well, thanks for having me come. It was really nice to see that, so.
Yeah, and they're really, they spend a lot of time talking to staff, and they've already spent a lot of time here in the library taking measurements, walking around, you know, poking their heads up in the ceiling and stuff like that. And so, you know, they're really getting a pretty good understanding of the building and some of the challenges that we have. But it was good to go, especially this morning when we were on the sport. I don't think the pictures really did it justice too much, but it was nice to go in there and say, okay, wow, they really were able to do a lot of different things with this space that have very similar challenges to what we had. So it was kind of, wow, we can do some things, and hopefully it's not going to be an arm and leg kind of thing.
Right.
So.
All right. So, back to the agenda, we're kind of off topic again. Right, so we have a little minutes, so I'll make a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from January 9th, 2020.
Second.
Any corrections, comments?
All those in favor of approving the minutes from January 9th, 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, public comments, agenda, no public, yeah, right. President report, the only thing I would just like to, and I'm sure we'll have time to do this too, but extend our appreciation for Natalia and all of her hard work. I'm sure there's a lot of mixed emotions throughout the library. She'll be missed, so.
It's a lot of institutional knowledge.
Yeah, no, she's tons of,
Yeah.
So,
I like the way you wrote up her little history.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was there, you know, like all along the way. I remember when she started and what my kids appreciated her help, and all that time she's accomplished so many different things.
yeah. All right, so committee reports. Finance?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you can approve them still. Yeah.
We can still approve them?
Yeah.
Okay. The financials reports for January 2020.
Second.
Are there any questions, comments?
Does this always look like this?
No.
It's different, right?
Okay. I was like, what is this? Is this new?
This is the way I believe it's gonna look. Maybe
Okay,
it'll
so
be-
get used to it.
This is the way that it comes out of our accounting software,
Oh,
and
okay.
in the past, what Blanche had been doing was rekeying in that data
Oh.
in an Excel spreadsheet. So
Okay.
I myself didn't realize that until Teresa had printed this out, and then also printed out the Excel spreadsheet, and I said, well, why have we been doing that? So I have suggested to Carlotta that we just go with this, rather than run the potential risk of, you know, making an error as we're keying in things.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what you're
I mean, it's the
looking
same
at.
information.
It's
Just
the
one
same
different-
information, this is just how it comes out of Sage, which is our accounting
That's,
software.
it was just an extra step.
Right.
Just first, right?
Right.
Start.
Okay, they're eliminated.
Mhm.
Would you like a little bigger print, maybe?
No, I'll just hold it a little closer.
Maybe that is why she was doing it, that it was, it's the same size as a check register.
The income statement, any questions?
There are a couple
Okay,
bigger
that's a long
payments,
one.
right? So that was something that I noticed, I briefly overheard you guys mention it, but that was Right, just the second, I think the second page is right. So the automation, and that's just,
Some of that is holdovers from kind of end of the year, it depends on when they actually get paid.
Okay.
So there is some of that. And then we had held off last year on replacing youth services computers, and then there was just like the monthly payments and stuff like that. So
Okay.
some of that's just a timing thing with that, so we should be within the budget as the year goes on. It's,
Okay.
you know, kind of the.
And the CCS, that's like
That's a quarterly payment.
quarterly,
So,
okay, okay.
yeah, so
Gotcha.
then we won't
Okay.
see that for another 3 months. And then,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
That's why it's trying
yep.
Okay.
Check register, any questions?
What is Orange Boy?
Orange Boy is it's a new marketing software that we subscribe, we just started subscribing to that will help us with some of our email marketing, kind of data analysis in terms of what people are checking out and marketing specifically to them. For example, you know, looking at, you know, who's checking out, we can do a lot of different things. One of the coolest things I think is we are getting the ability with that to, in addition to the kind of targeted email pushes that we've got, we can look at all of Morton Grove and see like where there's card holders all throughout the city, or who's checking out, where is there a lot of picture books being checked out, all that kind of thing. So there's a whole ability to analyze our the collection, the way the collection and the services are being used. So, and then there's an email marketing component to that as well. So that is an annual.
An annual thing?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so that, we won't see that again until next
Okay.
year.
And
But
then,
we've already started with that, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
So Chad has just developed a new card holder welcoming email, and so and we just started doing it like last week, I think, and so he sent out 25 of them. So he's gonna, like, every couple of weeks, we'll pull all the new card holders, and then we'll email them this welcoming email. But it has a way to then analyze the open rate of those emails, and so we sent out 25, and 24 of them were open and looked at. So I mean, it's really a small sample size, but the emails that we've started to send out, people are opening them and they're looking at them. So, and that was really our goal with getting it, is this idea that, you know, send these really targeted emails or new card holder, or, you know, we know that you check out a lot of your services books, so we're gonna try, you know, say, here's these programs that you may be interested in, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, just like I said, just with that little bit of data that we have so far, we were really gratified, because this was so new for us in terms of finding out, you know, kind of open rates and that kind of thing, so, fingers crossed.
Is there a way that you could email the monthly newsletter? I know you're not going to reach everybody, but...
People can sign up to receive our newsletter online, and they can already do that.
Okay.
So what can't happen is we don't really have a good way of saying, would you prefer to get it in email as opposed to paper? Because while we could make some of those determinations to try to figure out who would get email and who would get it in paper would cost a lot of staff time, but also when you start doing that, you have to pay full price at the post office instead of a bulk rate.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of an all or nothing thing. We would have to make some decision about, we're only going to do the newsletter online or in email as opposed to print. So,
Okay.
so there's no way
Yeah.
to kind of do those two things. And as of right now, I quite frankly think there would be a mutiny if we stopped mailing out our paper newsletter.
I mean, I would... yeah,
It's been
there's a lot of
interesting
people-
though, because there's a couple, you know, different listservs and stuff, but on one of them, they've been talking about, do libraries, you know, have a paper newsletter? And there's a fair number of libraries that just do it online, and I just, that would not work in Morton Grove for us right now, but yeah, there's not.
Mhm.
So you can get it online, but it doesn't mean that you still wouldn't get it in paper.
Right, right.
I'm assuming this is programmed, but I just don't, the 4206 Sol ARNS?
What number?
4206?
all you.
It's on the first page of the
So-
check register.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking, okay, 420. Okay, I don't have my reading list, so I'm sorry.
And I do. have-
Oh, Sol Ewing, yes, that's program.
Program, okay.
Yeah,
I was just like,
sorry.
what's the arm, the whole?
So some of it is that there's only so many spaces in the middle line.
I figured, but.
I think it's probably his last name.
Okay.
That's what. And I forgot my reading list is upstairs, so.
That's fine.
And then 4233 for 17,000.
Who's that to?
That is cooperative.
That's CCS, that's our online
CCS.
catalog, and that's the quarterly payment.
Quarter.
Yeah, so you won't, it used to be, the CCS payments used to be monthly, and then last year, they changed that to quarterly. So it used to be 700 something every month, but now it's just, yeah, but that is a quarterly payment, and it's well within the budget that I have for it.
And I have one more question. 4255, it says WT.Cox.
That is our magazine jobber,
Gotcha.
and usually is that the big one?
No, it wasn't, I was just.
So there is, usually that's an annual bill, so this might just be like if we added a magazine or something,
Oh,
but
okay.
usually that will be one that's larger because we, sometimes we'll just pay for everything all at once and then. But that's our magazine jobber.
Any more questions?
Okay, we'll vote on financial reports. Race Jack,
Yes.
Gonzo. Oh, sorry, he's not here. Bell's here, yes. Puzo?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Jost? Yes. Lisa Jack? Or I mean Gonzalez?
Yes.
Just got it all together.
All right, so facilities, we did our walkthrough last month. Policy, I know we have a few to review a little bit later. Staff reports, anything else?
Nothing really to add to my written report, as Emily commented, big news obviously is Natalia, but we do have a few months to make that transition. She and I have been working on the job description, which we think we've gotten revised to more accurately reflect, what the job entails. Right now, I anticipate, I think I even said this, posting that job probably mid-May, maybe when I come back after my son swim, assuming I can live through it all. And then, anticipate filling that position by August 1st. Natalia has been working and has been working closely with Melissa Mayberry, the assistant department head of adult services, for a while, and she's working more closely with Melissa to train her on things in case there is a lag in filling that position, and just so that Melissa knows everything that was kind of going on even when a new person comes in. So I will be posting internally and externally at the same time.
Do you think we'll have anybody internally?
I already know that there will be one candidate applying. That's the one I know for sure,
Okay.
and has mentioned something to me, but that's all I know right now. So,
Okay.
yeah, so it's with very mixed feelings. I mean, I'm excited for Natalia. She's got 3 grandchildren and it's going to help out her daughter more and stuff like that. And for her personal situation, I think that will be great for her. And she's certainly given above and beyond to the library and that kind of thing. But she's been a great help to me and just the institutional knowledge. But she's not going far. So. But I also don't want her to feel like she has to come and bail us out. But, but it also gives us an opportunity, as with anything, to, it's always good to get fresh eyes on things and to think about things in a different way. So, it's a mixed blessing.
Yeah.
Would it be beneficial to bring the person on while Natalia's still here, like in July as opposed to August?
We've gone back and forth about that. We haven't really made a decision. I mean, I think that if someone can start before then, before Natalia is gone, that's not something that we would rule out. I will say that's not typical in these types of situations. Even at a director level, a lot of times there's kind of two areas of thought. I mean, some of it is obviously you want to get people trained and that kind of thing, but then Also, particularly at that level, there is an expectation that people can come in and do some of the basics of that job. And,
Right.
you know,
And
so-
ultimately, you're looking for, you know, a replacement position, not a replacement mentality.
Right.
So,
So,
as much as.
But you're not changing the job description.
Yeah,
You're updating it,
Right,
but you're
right.
not changing.
No, it's not like the major functions of that job are not changing,
Okay.
of that position are not changing, so.
I mean, hopefully someone who has new set of eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think
looking at
that's,
things and-
you know, that really is kind of the thought about bringing someone in, overlapping like that, particularly at a position at that level, is that you also don't want anyone new coming in and potentially feeling like they can't introduce a new idea or a new thought about something because now they're working with the previous person
Correct.
who says, well, this is the way that I do it, sort of thing. So there's, and I think that we're in a good position because we have Melissa there, that you know, she will, I think, ease that transition and do some of that. You know, that there won't be, you know, things that will have to be taught. Melissa has she's been here a number of years and she's been in her current role a number of years. And like I said, working even more closely with Natalia now. So again, like I said, that being said, if someone could start while Natalia is still here, that doesn't mean that we would say, no, we don't want you to a certain date. So we'll have to look at that. And like I said, Natalia and I have talked a little bit off and on about, you know, the potential and kind of what the next few months are going to look like. But I don't think I have anything else to add unless someone has a question about it.
Definitely excited about the new book for the village.
Yeah,
That's so cool. I mean, it's probably a lot of planning, but.
Well, we're going to start relatively small in terms of the numbers of programs. We do have an author booked, and October 11th is going to be, things will kind of culminate in the author visit and the author talk. She lives in Chicago. So we're going to do a couple of book discussions, some other programming. We're just starting to work with the Community Relations Commission, who, while we don't think they'll be able to give us any funds, which would be nice, but have, you know, indicated, Chad was at their meeting the other night, and, you know, they indicated they were excited about this and anything they could do to assist us and stuff. So we're really kind of brainstorming about what different programming opportunities might be across the village and in conjunction with other organizations so that it really truly is a village-wide event. So we'll see how it goes. And, you know, if it's successful, we'll, you know, either try to do it every year, something like that. But it is something that, you know, we have been tentatively thinking about, but then the Community Relations Commission actually came to us and asked us if we would do something with them last year. So yes, it'll be exciting. Rebecca is spearheading a lot of that in the Adult Services Department. So she's kind of been the one that's done a lot of the work so far. And then Chad and marketing are coming into that as well. So yeah, it'll be exciting. We do a lot at our little library.
Yes, you do.
We really do.
Yeah.
I like seeing the CCS interlibrary loan activity. It was cool to see just, I mean, how active Morton Grove is, you know, considering that we just joined it. So it was cool to see those numbers. I mean, it's.
So I am actually going to be working probably with marketing to display some of the important statistics to the board in a little bit more
It's towards the back.
graphic way, and so that more of a snapshot as well. I obviously didn't get a chance to do that for this. I will still look at all the spreadsheets and statistics. I kind of like to see those things. But we will be, over the next few months, developing some different ways of presenting the information that is more meaningful and impactful, not only for the board, but for the public. I will say, kind of in relation to that, what you had said, Emily, is that every year we have to do the Illinois Public Library Annual Report, which is due March 1st. That's going to be I'm spending our next week. But in addition to, we're switching payroll companies. So it's all fun all the time. We looked at the number of interlibrary loans in the last 6 months of the year for us, because we have to report on the state's fiscal year, which is the last 6 months of of 2019. At the same time period 2 years ago, we had done 1,200 interlibrary loans. Last year, there were 8,000.
And mine personally have gone up
Yeah.
a ton, because they don't get it in
So-
3 days.
So Jeff was telling me that, and I said, there's a reason I wanted us to join CCS, but it
Yeah.
just goes to show, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, how much, and how, what a service to the patrons.
Yeah.
To be able to do that now,
Yeah,
and
it
and
really-
it just makes that process so much easier now
It
to be
really
part of the
is. And
consortium.
in that list, there's like a handful that are, you know, the bigger ones, like, you know, like Niles and
Right.
North, you know, that are more than, but we're
Yeah.
right in there. It's very active, it's cool to see, so.
And we loan a lot of things too, we're pretty generous, and my general feeling is that our materials, even though, you know, we're purchasing in the most kinds of things, they're not doing anyone any good sitting on our shelves. So if a more growth person doesn't want them and someone else does, we're happy to send those out, because there's gonna be that same type of thing if something's sitting on the shelf at Niles, for example, we'll send it here. So I like to see both of those numbers being high, because I think it you know, for me, kind of philosophically, this is what libraries are about.
Right.
And this idea about sharing information and sharing resources, so, yeah. So it's exciting, and I think it's been really, there's been no downside, very little, minimal downside to being part of CCS, so I'm really pleased that we were able to do that.
Any other questions, comments for Pam? All right. This is unfinished business. We'll talk about the service renovation. So new business, so we have a few policies to review and approve.
Yes? Do you want me to talk, or do you, Mick, or Tamara, do you want to talk?
No.
Okay, so, policy committee met, Lima wasn't there, but she was able to send some comments and stuff, and then I did meet with Mick and Tamara for the policies that we needed to review for this time. So you have the computer and technology use policy. Basically, the only changes made to that were to have the tablet circulation match the laptops. So you can see the parts that we removed or changed. So that was a fairly minimal, a minimal change. So it used to be, for some reason, the tablets were, you had to be 18 years old, and that has changed, and we thought that doesn't make any sense, because you can be 13 and check out a laptop. And this is all for in-line.
You would not have a photo ID for
Right,
13.
right, and we haven't done that for a long time.
Yeah.
So basically just to match the procedures. So that was the change of that policy. The investment policy, we made no changes to, and I didn't make any changes. This is actually a policy that, and Carlotta, you probably know a little bit more about this than I do, that I think was developed by PNA and recommended to us by them, and they do a lot of work with public
Right, that's what I
institutions. So
remember
this
them
does
doing.
match, it's a fairly standard policy for investment of funds of public institutions. So I didn't see any need to update anything, and so we made no changes to that, but it is on the review schedule, so I just want to have the board, actually review that. The new policy is the parental leave policy. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while, and this would be in addition to any vacation or sick leave that eligible employees had. There are a number of libraries, probably in the last couple of years, there's probably been 20 libraries in the area that have added paid parental leave policies. And as we think about trying to attract and retain, really competent people, I have to look at what our surrounding libraries are doing, so that, those are the people that we're competing with as we look for those employees. And this type of policy is something that they're really looking for. So the policy committee reviewed it. I think that they are recommending to the full board that this be something that we adopt. Obviously, it's just for our eligible employees that would be eligible for health insurance. So I used the 30-hour a week cutoff, because that's actually the cutoff for being eligible for health insurance. So it just made sense to use that instead of the full-time, which is 37.5 hours.
Is 4 weeks on the low end for paid?
A little bit.
that what the other area libraries are?
It has varied.
Oh, okay.
It really depends. Other libraries that are a little bit closer to our size, so like Glencoe, that kind of thing, they've used like 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
So keeping in mind that this is in addition to any sick leave that people have earned, and then also paid vacation, so.
So that's what you're including, is there, do they accumulate sick time?
Sick leave, employees are allowed to accumulate up to, full-time employees, 450 hours, so however many days that is, I think it's about 6 months. When someone leaves our employ, we don't pay that. If they retire, that can be for our employees that are IMRF, which is almost all of them,
Right.
except until I had one other person, that is converted into service credits.
Right.
So
So when they're taking this leave, they're using sick days or vacation?
right. Or no,
So separate.
this will be
Or
in addition
addition.
to those.
So if they wanted to extend their time, they could,
Right,
outside of the
If
4
they
weeks.
extend beyond the 4 weeks.
right.
You don't force people to use sick time or vacation time for parental.
Yeah.
So this is 4 weeks they get if they have a baby or adopt a baby or whatever. And then they can
Oh, they can
sandwich-
extend it. I
And they
think
can
it's-
extend it. And they can extend it up into, what it does run concurrently with family and medical leave, which is a guaranteed 12 weeks unpaid. But if they have some kind of benefit that they can get paid, that's typically what people have done, is that that's what would happen here. So, all of that leave would run concurrently with family and medical leave.
And there's nothing now, right? This is all new.
There is
They
no
can just use
parental
their
leave
sick
policy.
and-
Right,
okay.
they would have to use vacation and sick.
Well,
Okay.
there is nothing at all?
There's vacation and sick.
No,
We do not have a parental
Okay.
leave policy at this point, yeah.
So I guess we'll be happy with
So
that.
that's the new one, so the board may want to vote, however you want to vote, I'll finish going through the
Sure,
changes that we
yeah,
made and
thank
then
you. I just had-
discuss further. Yep, no problem. The patron code of conduct, you should have both my showing markup, which kind of shows you the changes I made, and then I gave you a clean copy, because sometimes reading the track changes can be, no, it's just to make your eyes cross a little bit. Significant changes are, we removed sleeping in the library, since, as long as that, no one's disruptive and they're not
Right.
laying down on a couch, it's,
Taking up all
yeah,
the space.
exactly. And then, there's something about intoxication, I think.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so that was, and then added some language that talks about cannabis. So those were significant changes. And then included volunteers in a number of places that, and thank you, Lima, for that. So those are the changes there. And then the volunteer policy, it did the same thing, showed you the track changes and then the clean copy. Basically, there weren't a ton of changes to this, but we combined the teen volunteer and the adult volunteer policies into one. There were very, and I didn't include the teen volunteer policy, but most of the changes that I made to this policy was to use verbiage that I had used in the teen volunteer policy, so it was just.
Are you keeping them as separate policies?
No, they're the
Oh, now
same.
you just.
Yeah, it's all volunteer
Period.
policy, yeah. Yep. Because the only difference between the two policies was, we allow community service for adults, but we don't for teens. We tried that and we ran into a number of problems, and so we no longer allow that for teens. So that's really the only difference, and that's spelled out in the policy now. So those are the policies that the policy committee and I discussed. And correct me if I misspeak, Tamara and Nick, that I think it was the feeling of the committee that they would recommend to the board the approval of the policies as amended, so.
Do we have to approve them separately?
You can approve them all at once unless you want to discuss them separately, or if there's one that you know, for example, if there was really, opposition to one of them, say parental leave or something like that, but if.
We don't have to approve this separately because it's a new one now?
No, you can approve them all at once as long as the motion indicates that. But if you want to do them separately, you can do that too.
just wanted to make sure we're new to it, because this is a new one, and then just thought.
Yeah, there's nothing, like, so as long as the motion indicates everything, that's fine.
Gotcha.
Can anybody make the motion, or
Mhm.
does you? Okay, does anybody have any other discussion? I guess we should make the motion first, sorry. I'll make a motion to approve the computer and technology use, investment, parental leave, patron code conduct, and volunteer policies.
What I would recommend is roll calling that.
Yes, I will, yeah. I guess I can do that now, I'm ready to see. Okay. I was gonna say Eric again. Pelletier, yes. Puzo?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Jost?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mason Jack?
Yes. Thank you for including the schedule, too.
Oh, yes, so you do have an updated schedule. It's not in the greatest order, but I did want for you guys to see that. So I will work on getting that a little bit more readable, but.
All right, thank you, policy committee, for going through all that. Okay, so, with the review of the closed session minutes, sorry, I'm making a motion first and organizing myself, so we have,
You don't need to, this is one instance where you can discuss before you make a motion.
okay, so this is, and so there's 4, right?
Yeah,
Right?
so what you have, I did, should have been included in your packets. I did try to explain what was going on, particularly for the newer board members that might not have done this either, obviously here or at other organizations that you might be on the boards for. It is required by statute that 2 times a year that closed session minutes and recordings of closed sessions are reviewed, and the board has to make a decision whether or not to retain those minutes and recordings, keep them closed or open them up. For recordings you would destroy, for minutes you would open them up, and that means post them to the public. So what you have, as I've explained, so for the written minutes, we're looking at the minutes from August 8th, August 22nd, and November 14th of 2019. On my explanation, you can see brief descriptions of what those were. 2 of those minutes reflected trustee interviews, and then one of them was the director review, and then review of compensation or discussion of compensation. I recommend that those be released. The board can certainly choose to keep them closed. So that's for the written minutes. The second part of the Open Meetings Act, the compliance, is that recordings that are at least 18 months old and have written minutes of them, the board has to vote to either destroy those recordings or keep the recordings. You can't destroy a recording unless there is written minutes for that. And what you have in your packets that I gave you are the written minutes for the recording that I'm suggesting that the board vote to destroy. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I think they're pretty straightforward. So I'll make a motion to release the closed session minutes from August 8th, 2019, August 22nd, 2018, and November 14th, 2018.
I'll second it.
Puzo?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Jost?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mason Jack?
Yes.
Pelletier, yes.
And I will make a motion to destroy the verbatim recordings from the closed session minutes from January 11, 2018, per 5 ILCS 120/2.06C1 of the Open Meetings Act.
I'll second. Swanson?
Yes.
Jost?
Yes.
You can,
Gonzalez? Gonzalez?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I'm
That's okay.
sorry.
Mason Jack?
Yes.
Pelletier?
Yes. Spelled
Yes.
wrong,
Sure,
but
that's
I
right.
signed it, so,
Oh.
You know?
back in 2018. There.
No,
They know
that- you don't, you can keep that. Let's see.
Did I-
The last page?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
okay.
you.
We're good.
So, because all the closed session minutes have been open, they don't necessarily need to be destroyed. I'm happy to take them and shred them for you, though, if you want. The other thing that is that I did include in that little packet was the review schedule. There are some past dates on there, but then you can also see upcoming, what we'll be looking at in terms of both the timeframe for written minutes and then the timeframe for recordings. So it's just for your information, how we track that. Okay.
And what was the date on the verbatim recordings for the?
It was the January 11th, 2018.
Thank you.
Are you just writing?
Oh, wait.
So,
Did she already take it?
Yes, you got it.
I did.
Yes.
so then we have communications. We had a letter from Brookfield Zoo to Courtney.
Yeah, so Brookfield Zoo membership was one of our winter reading prizes, so we just got a nice thank you letter from the Brookfield Zoo for that. And then I had emailed the trustees this as well, but I did include the information about the upcoming library trustee forum. If you are interested in attending, let me know. I have heard from Emily, who has indicated that she would like to attend. I probably will be going. As I said in my email, that I have actually seen the woman speak. She has her own company, and it's a really interesting presentation, and they have a very interesting approach to strategic planning, which is something that we'll need to think about doing. Definitely, if not this year, then definitely next year would be, because our strategic plan goes through 2020. So, so I would say if you can at all go, that I think it would be a really worthwhile program. And it's always interesting also to get the legislative update from people. But obviously people have busy lives, but at least, I don't think for sure we'll be going, I probably will be going, but just let me know, because it's easier for me to register everyone at once, because then there's a slight discount for people, so.
Can we let you know, like, right now?
You can let me know now, or you can
Okay.
email me,
I'll go.
or, okay, let me just make note of that. And then if you could just let me know by next Friday, I believe is what I have said in my email. If some of you are thinking about it or need to check something, but let me know by next Friday. if
I'll
you're
let you
going
know
to.
next Thursday for sure.
Okay. And then I can get everyone registered. Sometimes the trustee forums are less helpful, but I think this one will be really good. So that.
All right. So now we have public comments, non-agenda items. There's still no public. No need to go to executive session. So it is 8:18. Meeting adjourned.